one of the things that has been most important for Danny and I is to help folks identify what their blockages are and then to help them to create tools. It is not my job to help fix you. It is not your job to help fix me. But it is our responsibility to help open you up and to provide tools that you can use to help live lives that feel as good as they look.
So we've kind of touched on this a little bit throughout the process so far, but we're going to take the deepest dive that we can with a forum. So we're going to have 3 speakers up here to talk about different aspects of blockages that we may be facing. We're going to talk about everything from relationships to mindset to even nutrition, right? So we want you guys to have an open mind, have an open heart like you've been doing all day. And we're going to welcome our 3 speakers. We have Miss Amber Forrester. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hello, beautiful. Yes. We have Miss, okay, so y'all had some of her delicious food already, but she's also a fashionista, okay? So we have the wonderful Miss Unique Matthews coming as well. And just look, and just, you know, all the things. Okay. And then we have the wonderful, we had such a, I don't know if you guys were able to catch the live that we did with her before this event, but it was so amazing. We have Miss Nikkia McClain as well. Please come up.
Okay. Strut like you know you loved.
I didn't get to hug up on Danny. I'm just here. It's my boo.
It's the love for me.
It's given. It's always given. Always given.
I love it. I love it. Okay, we're going to make sure everybody, okay, we all good. Ooh, okay. So now listen. You all have you do all the things, all 3 of you. And the one question that we make sure that we ask for every single person who meets us or who gets on the stage or who we have an interview with or a conversation, we like to call them interviews, who has a conversation with us, is who do you say you are? Now, we want this to be, if you can, in 3 words or less, who would you say that you are? And whomever can start, whomever can finish, we're free-flowing.
How about 2 syllables? Everything.
Oh. I love that. Who do you say you are? Everything. 2 syllables. I love it. Who?
I'm love.
Oh.
I'm creative, and I'm unique.
Yes. Love, creative, and unique. Yes.
Well, I'm a bit like my grandma's here. I'm a powerful child of God.
Yes.
And when she leave the room,
I'm still a powerful child of God, honey.
No matter what you're doing. Hallelujah. I love that. One of the things that we both agree with is too many times, so many people tell you who you are, like we said, based on what it is that you do. So getting super, super clear on who you are outside of your role, outside of your title, it allows you to expand in ways that are truly unimaginable.
For sure. So we definitely want to just dive right in, okay? So when we spoke to you, Nikkia, we spoke a lot about relationships and just how they kind of are such a big part of our lives and a lot of times very triggering for us, right? Like a lot of the times the relationships that we have, we don't realize that some of our reaction is really because we're so triggered because many of our relationships are actually mirrors to who we really are, right? We can choose to grow from them or we can be destroyed by them and then we're flipping fingers and tables, right? Like we were talking about earlier. So you actually have accomplished the amazing feat of being happily married for over 20 years, yes? Is that right?
Yeah, we just celebrated our 20-year vow renewal in December. Amber was one of my
And you looked amazing. Okay, it looked like a fabulous time. So how do you manage your own triggers and traumas while growing with especially a romantic partner? Like, what does that actually look like? Because it sounds really good to just be like, oh, we've been married for 20 years, but some people are married for 20 years and miserable as hell. right? Like, it's not the time spent. Like, what about the quality of the time spent?
I mean, I haven't been happily married for 20 years.
Ooh, we getting real. Okay, give us the tea. Give us the tea.
No, seriously. I mean, I want real tea because I'm very
Real
transparent.
tea. We just sipped some tea. We need this tea.
No, so in 2019, Amber and I are very close friends. I had asked my husband for a divorce.
I know. We interrupted at the best part, but hear me out.
Dating should not be this hard. Let's be honest. We've all said it at least once that the dating pool has pee in it.
It has to. After dozens of dates, too many failed relationships, engagements, marriages, and even a divorce, we decided it was crucial that we find ways to be better at attracting the partners that we desire. So we did just that, and we created the Dating Well AF course.
It's specifically designed to show women how to date with intention and in alignment with their desired type of lifestyle and experience. The 5-module crash course developed by certified coaches Alicia and Danny provides practical tools to date well and live even better.
So I want you to register now for lifetime access to the Dating Well AF course at datingwellaf.com. You will tap all the way in to learn how to identify those self-sabotaging behaviors, discover new ways to date intentionally, and to nurture that healthy love.
Remember, one of the most important life decisions you will ever make is who you decide to make your partner. Make the choice well and visit datingwellaf.com.
Now, back to the episode.
I was done. I was building a company. I feel like I've built this amazing family. And so when you're building, I felt like the person who was supposed to support me the most was really digging a grave for us. And so I was like, you know what? I am not dumbing myself down to make you feel good. You are not leveling up to where we need to be. And then COVID saved our marriage. And I'm actually happy that it did, because when I tell you this is my husband, I never wanted to be married. So I got married at 23. I got married after 6 months of dating. So we had to learn one another. We grew together.
Wow.
And of course, I was outgrowing him, as, you know, I'm not trying to take away from the black men or the men in the room, but we push ourselves forward. You know, whether it's being educated, whether it's learning about ourselves, whether it's going to therapy, I just knew like I was done. But I'm telling you, COVID saved us, therapy, just falling back in love with one another. So even when I was doing a 20-year vow renewal, I wasn't going to do it if we weren't where we needed to be. Right. And I felt like we were there. We had that epiphany. And now we just loving hard on one another. Yeah. And our children got to see that. You know, our children are experiencing ups and downs. As much as we try to keep from them, they are going through everything with us. So it's important to just make sure that, you know, you're growing and doing your best part. But for me, it was just, I don't know, we just had that moment and it was everything.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yes, it's the fact that you just told us the whole goddamn honest
Yeah, and I think that's how we need to show up in our relationships. I think we need to show up truthful. Stop showing up up front. You know, stop acting like you got it when you don't. You know, I think that's what we're doing in relationships. We're not showing up being our authentic selves. And I think that's when you start having the people around you that also are those same individuals. They're not pushing you forward. They're not making sure you're doing the best or getting the best out of yourselves. And so I think it's really important that you just are transparent and honest with yourself. It draws those people into you that are like-minded like you. I mean, how many of us have hung out with girlfriends in our 20s? I'm 45, in our 20s, and then you realize, like, I've been your friend for 5 years. I don't like you.
Ooh.
It just happens. Because it happens. In our 30s, we're like, you're like, in your 30s, those relationships begin to matter. Yes. In my 40s, oh, my sisters, listen. I attract some amazing sisters. And for me, it really is showing up as myself, nurturing that relationship. I don't ask for anything. I'm always trying to figure out how I can be of service. And they're always like, Nikkia, you get the ask. You get the ask. Well, guess what? Just keep nurturing and being of service to your sisters.
Yeah. Actually, we want to talk a little bit more about sisterhood.
Well, go to somebody else.
No, we're talking to you, sis. You're the one. You're it. So for so many women, I'm sure we can all relate to this. We find it difficult, especially the older we get, to build real relationships and deep, genuine, intimate relationships with other women. With so many stories in the media and in real life, right? In in and around betrayal and backstabbing and talking about each other behind each other's back, and that kind of becomes the culture, right? From the housewives to love and hip hop, it just seems like women are just so mean. And it's just like, oh my God, these are friends, and this is how they talk to each other, and this is how they interact with each other. With the mission of support your girlfriends, which is one of your missions, you're a representation of what it means to be a girl's girl. Like, you say that you attracted all these wonderful people. How did and how do you build trust and develop deep, lasting relationships with women with the, we're so used to know new friends, with new friendships, right? And even maybe strengthening your older friendships that you have had for some time.
So I think with support your girlfriends, you didn't have to be my girlfriend for 15 years to be on that trip.
Okay.
It was the energy that I got from us interacting. It's the energy. It's like, if I'm coming out to support you, how are you supporting me? Yeah. And so for that trip, you have to show up as your authentic self. Right. Like, you are literally in a room with women. There's no sponsors. There's no photographers. You're not being put on. We are leading conversation. I mean, we are really diving into what are our weaknesses, what are our barriers, what are the things that, and what you find in those rooms is that we're all dealing with something.
Yes.
And when you have that, it allows you to pour into one another. So with support your girlfriends, you have to show up as your authentic self, or you don't last. You just don't. Amber tell you, people leave the group. And it's not, I'm not being mean. I'm not a mean girl. It's just that if you're coming on this trip, you want to feel protected. You want to feel like you could be vulnerable and transparent. It is not an opportunity for you to be an opportunist. We all are there to grow and thrive together. But if you're coming for anything outside of that, it's not going to work. These are my sisters. I want to protect them. We're going through a lot. I just told you, I was getting a divorce. These women knew this before all of you. Yeah. So it's important to be able to share so you could grow from that.
Yeah.
Or you'll keep having triggers.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. And it's too, it allows you, so one thing that I want, and I'm going to challenge each and every one of us to do, is find you, I am a firm believer, and find you one or two good folks. One or two good folks who you can tell. There's I have a program working with executives, and there's something that I created, it's called leader alarms. You need it to be that you get super, super clear on when you're on red, when you're on orange, and when you're on yellow. When you are on yellow, it means cracks are starting to show. You're getting overwhelmed, and you need the support that either only a good girlfriend can provide or someone who really, really loves you. What are your defaults when you're on yellow? Then when you're on orange, there needs to be an emoji or a catchphrase or a word or something that you can send to those one or two good girlfriends to say, hey, I'm about to drop the glass balls. You can drop all the balls when they're plastic, but when you start to dropping the glass balls and the ceramic balls, that means you are about to crack open your life for better or for worse. You gotta find you one or two good girlfriends who you can be in authentic space with, who you can share that, hey, I'm missing the mark, or hey, I'm having a real shitty time right now. I need to see you. I need to love upon you. Like Precious said earlier, somebody who you literally can hold your hand to bring you back to yourself. Ooh, child, this good advice right here. When I tell you I'm full. So now, Amber, the reason I love you so immensely is because you constantly and consistently challenge my mindset and belief around what's possible. And we all know that our mindset is what keeps us from moving forward in and through everything. So it's easy to tell somebody, oh, just shift your mindset. Just shift your mindset. Okay, well, how? How? But what I would like to know are, what are some of the practical and applicable steps? Because if y'all know me, y'all also know I don't do parables. King James Version was never the one for me. I need New International. Speak to me in real words. Talk to me clearly. So what are some of these applicable and practical steps that we can take to really start to rewire our brain and change our perspective around all the things?
Mm-hmm. So in the exercise that we did with Karen before, one of the things that I love so much about it is the mindfulness piece of bringing our awareness around our comfort or discomfort with how we're feeling. With so many of the roles that we play, whether we're a wife or we're a friend or we've been somebody's friend for 10 years or 20 years or whatever, we can get wrapped up in, but I have to show up this way and I have to do this and I have to do that. But that might not feel good for us anymore. So one, the motivation and the mindfulness, the awareness is the start. So if you're feeling in your life like something is not working for you and you keep sweeping it beneath the rug, that's the wrong place to put it, because it's gonna keep festering. It's not gonna go away. But the important first step of recognizing this is something that I wanna change, and that's okay, no matter what role I play, no matter what others' expectations are of me. So that first step, and then recognizing what our triggers are, like what takes me into that space where I don't feel so good about where I am, and how can I start to shift or remove that or change my energy within that. And so neuroplasticity, I study positive psychology, so I'm gonna geek out on y'all for a second. Neuroplasticity is this whole concept around the fact that we can change our minds. You know how, what did our parents used to say, especially if you got a dad that was stubborn, I'm an old man, you can't teach me anything new, I can't learn anything new. Well, that's not true. Our brains are always changing, and it's either by intention or by default. So if we're not feeding ourselves positive self-talk, if we're not feeding ourselves focusing on what we do want and not what we don't want, then we're training our brain in a negative way. Yeah. So I want to first stop to ask you all, in thinking about your thoughts in the last week, have your thoughts been mostly positive? Have they been negative? Have they been neutral? And that watching the Housewives and watching all these shows and being on social media does not always make us feel good. So how are you feeling with where you are? So let's start with that point of motivation, and then making intentional decisions to now make different choices. What can I do differently? Maybe I don't need to watch that show. Maybe I need to journal and meditate in the morning. Maybe I don't need to talk on the phone with that friend who always be getting me in the drama, and I don't feel good when I get off the phone with her. Girl, I don't want to hear about it no more. Yeah. Right? Because our habits are what literally change our neural pathways. Yeah. And so what first is an unconscious decision that we're making. By mindfulness, we make it a conscious decision to make a better choice. And eventually, if we make that choice enough, it becomes unconscious and we're making a good choice. So how do I make unconscious good choices? By developing healthy habits. And it's not something that comes, like you can't do this and go, oh, it's going to change like overnight. This is something that takes work. I remember, Ashley, when you were working with your spiritual coach and advisor, I always loved that you were so open on social media about talking about the things that you were struggling with. You would acknowledge them and admit them, but you were not ever going to stay in that. You were going to say, okay, I admitted this. I called myself out. I'm not ashamed of that, as Karen talked earlier about shame. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not going to let that have power over me anymore. But then you started to make changes, conscious changes, and you didn't use the girlfriend to hold you accountable. You used all of your 100-some thousand followers to hold you accountable for the changes that you make. So that healthy friend that can hold you accountable for the changes, that one or two people in your life that can say, girl, you said that you didn't want to do that anymore. You want to change your mind, or you don't want to show up, or you don't want to show up like that anymore. You said you were making those changes. I'm holding you accountable. And then let them. Don't fight for your limitations. Please do not. If something does not feel right for you, that's the universe, that's God, that's your body signaling that it is not right for you.
Absolutely, and paying attention to that, right? Yeah. Like that's so important. You're talking about mindset shifts, and I feel like for many people, the moment you mention the word nutrition or healthy food or organic or gluten-free or vegan or any word like that, they get turned off. It's like a knee-jerk trigger. You're like, wait, what? I'm not eating that. That don't taste good. Like, I don't want to eat healthy. It's not gonna have no flavor. It's not gonna have salt. It's not gonna have sugar. And we obviously saw the difference in what quality food tastes like with Unique's presentation of food, where we had organic wings, we had dairy-free banana. Like, if you told me I was gonna enjoy dairy-free banana pudding or seafood salad, I've been like, girl, bye. That is not how you make banana pudding, right? But she finds these wonderful ways to incorporate healthier options as opposed to completely cutting out the things that we love, whether it's comfort food or food that you just eat because your grandma made it and it brings back good memories. So because poor diet and nutrition is often at the root of so many of our health conditions and has even been linked to depression, stress, anxiety, like it's not, if you hear scientists and doctors talk now, they're not talking so much about your genetics. It's like, no, your environment, the things you put in your body, the people you surround yourself with is having way more of an impact on us and our health than we thought it did. So how can people, like we're talking with Amber about reframing our mind, how can people start to do that around food and nutrition? How can they start to kind of change their approach and the way they think about food and nutrition so that they can start to make make those little habit changes to lead a healthier lifestyle?
Well, first I would say that they have to forget about everything that they learned about food. Like, you really have to find it disgusting. Or, no, listen, so many of us, we eat to live, right? When we should be learning to, no. Live to eat, right? So for me, food was a trigger for me when I was younger. I grew up in the hood, in the projects, and food wasn't available. And so, like, full transparency, shaking roaches out of cereal boxes, waiting for them to leave so that I could eat. Yeah. And so it got to a point where, you know, both of my grandmothers died of cancer. And a lot of people in my family have diabetes, and, you know, things that are caused by foods. And so I just wanted to be a change. My son was the original reason why I started to change, because he decided that he didn't want to eat meat at 4 years old. And so at that point, I didn't know what to do. So I'm giving him soy nuggets, and he was like, "No, I don't like this. This is nasty." But I didn't know. And so for me as a parent, I always want to show up for my son. I want to, if there's something that I don't know, I'm going to go research it. And so that's what I did. And I realized that I didn't know that vegetable oil and canola oil wasn't good for us. I mean, I did hear that you shouldn't fry foods, but, you know, certain ingredients we can change, and we don't know. So I was telling somebody about sugar, and I was like, yeah, you can use coconut sugar. And they was like, what's that? You know, so it's
You
like.
turned me on to apple sugar. It's
I
the
know,
bomb,
I
y'all.
know. So yeah, there's a thing called apple sugar. I will be releasing it for my birthday, July 8th, but I'll talk about that later. So yeah, it really is about just wanting to change. Yeah. Because you can still eat the same foods, just make adjustments. Like, people bake cakes, right? And they put eggs in them. Eggs don't have a taste. It's just a binder. So we don't need the egg in our cake to bind it. There are other things that you can use, like bananas or applesauce. You know, so it's just like knowing those little things can help us change our mindset when it comes to eating.
Okay. Now, I have a quick follow-up question. But for those of us who are quite resistant, because I used to be a hater, y'all. Anytime someone would be like, "Oh, well, I eat healthy," I'd be like, "So?" Yeah. And for me, it was because I couldn't always afford food. Just like you, my mom went crazy when I was 8. So, and I don't know if that's the politically correct term, so my bad. Slide in my DMs and tell me what's a better way to say it. But my mother went crazy when I was 8, and I was the oldest, so that meant I had to figure it out. Right. I was tired of being hungry all the time. So when people would mention food, I get so irritated, because it's like, yes, I said, that's all I can afford. Right. McDonald's is the easiest. It's the quickest. Wendy's is too. Now, no disrespect to those companies, keep making your money, but you couldn't pay me to eat it. But for me then, it was this is all I can afford. Right. So how do you work or help people to work through that mentality of, well, this is all I can afford, so mind your business and drink your water. Right. I'm going to live my life how I want to. Like, where do you begin to transform when it comes to that?
Well, if you were here earlier, you heard Ashley talk about, if you feel that you can't afford it, that's the problem, right? So that's number one. Number two, you're going to pay. So do you want to pay now, or do you want to pay later? And so that's like extremely important. You pay now for the ingredients because you want to buy organic, or your fish shouldn't be farm raised. It should only be wild caught. So you're going to spend a little bit more now, right? So if you go in the store and it's peppers, green peppers or something, and they have the regular ones and the organic ones is 40 cents more, yes, you're going to go for the cheaper, because we also was programmed that way as well. But I'm not going for cheap. I'm going for a better quality, right? And if you don't want to pay now, then you'll pay later in doctor bills, or not having the energy to go to work to make the money because the foods that you're eating are making you sluggish, or, not low energy. So that for sure.
Either way you pay.
Yeah, you're going to pay.
You're going to pay.
Yes.
And there are, when you talk about like how we're conditioned and programmed to be like, oh, let me get this 10 cent off, or let me make sure I get the buy one, get one free. It's because there is a system that kind of pushes all these misconceptions and misinformation surrounding food. How many of us had started a healthy journey? You started eating something and it was supposed to be healthy, and then you went on Instagram and it wasn't healthy no more. You're like, what? We can't eat that? Or, oh, that's bad for us now. And you're just like, okay, well, where do I even start? Because every time you think you're on a healthy journey, somebody is telling you that that's not the way to do it, right? And then you just kind of go back to how you were taught to eat. Yeah. I grew up with a mom who was, I think she's been on every diet, pill, program, whatever, right? So it's like I grew up with that mentality of, I'm gonna not eat this so I could drop 10 pounds for that dress, for that occasion, for that thing. So I feel like I'm really happy to see, like, even though there is a lot of information out, there does seem to be, and you've talked about this, a kind of awakening and a desire for people to learn more about their food and their nutrition and their health. Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. So how can we not just think about the physical, like, okay, you're eating healthy, but how can food aid in your healing journey? Like, how can it help you with battling your trauma inside? Like, how can we use food as a healing mechanism, not just for the physical health benefits?
Right. So we want to eat live foods, right?
Okay.
We want to eat foods that grow in the ground. Okay. And those foods gonna give us the nutrients that we need. For example, people, when I tell them I don't eat meat, they're like, oh, but what about protein? So the average woman needs 50 to 60 grams of protein. 1 cup of chickpeas is 40 grams of chickpeas. And then we also feel like we need 3 meals a day. We don't need 3 meals a day, we need nutrients. So if you're having 3 meals a day and it's fried this and eggs and whatever, people choose to eat, you're not getting your nutrients anyway. So you're just eating, and you're just eating like emotion. It's more of an emotion that you're doing. You're not just trying to be healthy. So that, yeah.
Can I jump in on one of the things that I learned from you? Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm on. I'm back. Okay. So one of the things that I learned from you, I love, the name of her company is Eat and Cheat, because it's eat and cheat, like you're planning for that cheating on the weekend. So I heard you say one time about like eating healthy through the week and then cheating on the weekend. Mm-hmm. And that, especially for someone who's like mindset and positive habits, is like, if you can develop a lifestyle that supports your eating habits, is so much more powerful than that diet. So it's like, I'm going to let myself cheat 2 days a week. So we're planning now for the reality that I like to cheat sometimes and that I need to just cheat a lot less than I'm eating good. And I was like, eat and cheat, it's like, I mention it all the time. So shout out to you, I had to say that because you didn't throw that plug in yet. And like, I love that as a mentality. It's so much more sustainable that I'm gonna go on a diet.
Yeah. It is a lifestyle, and my cheat is chips. I got 2 bags of chips in the car right now. However, my chips got 3 ingredients. It's organic potatoes, olive oil, and sea salt, right? And so again, it's a cheat for me, but I'm still trying to figure out ways to make it better, to make myself feel good, because I'm still eating the chips, but I'm just gonna monitor the ingredients. And it is a lifestyle, it's not a diet. Diets come and go, you gain the weight, you lose the weight. Right now, a lot of people are doing the Ozempic. And I've seen some people and they look amazing on their journey of weight loss, because I've seen like the journey in trying to lose weight, and it's a struggle. And so this is like rapid. But I don't know if the people did the research that 50 to 70% of the weight that you lose will come back when you stop using the medication. So it's like, okay, now that you did it, kudos, you look amazing, but this was the opportunity for you to now create that lifestyle to move forward so that you can keep that weight off.
The same thing with like surgeries and things like that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, it's really supposed to be a jump start to be like, okay, I'm gonna live a healthier lifestyle.
Right. It's a cheat.
So that, but then you cheat and then you're supposed to move forward from that, not cheat and then go backwards. So
Right.
that's a very good point.
Well, listen, I eat pretty well, except when I cheat. It's Prosecco. It's a bottle of Prosecco Saturday. It might be 6 bottles on Sunday. So I cheat. I mean, I
Yeah.
literally eat. I eat really well.
Yeah.
That is not the issue.
Yeah.
Prosecco is the issue.
So now that's actually a question that I have for each of you, and Nikki, I'd love to start with you, is we all have blockages, right? I would love for you all to name maybe what your biggest or greatest blockage was that you had to overcome and the how. Primarily because I'm a firm believer in by me telling my truth, it helps to free somebody else to own and honor their own. So what would each of you say has been your biggest blockage, and then what did you do to overcome it? And if let's say you haven't overcome it, but what are you doing to manage it to get to like the other side?
Well, I think when I started out in business, I mean, my company is a little over 12 years old. But you know how you start out, you know, if any of us are entrepreneurs, small business owners in the room, you get to that point where you start to say, why is this person getting more, doing more when I'm doing more of the work? Right? That was where I was. I mean, maybe year 2 into my business, like, wait a second, I execute at the highest level. I already knew I'm black, I'm a woman, so I gotta work 200 times harder. I understood that. But I was like, why is this so easy for this person? But then I realized that was my mindset. And I was like, you can't worry about what someone else is doing. And I feel like the moment I stopped doing that, like what's for them is for them and what is for me is for me. And I think one of the things, I started fasting at one time, and I remember God saying, oh, you think you got here? Oh, I got you here. So I think we just really need to understand that as long as you're doing the work, success may not happen for you year 2, year 5. And I know we're seeing people become millionaires unconventionally. They still did the work. It's just that it's been unconventional. So it looks like they have overnight success, but I'm sure people have put in years. And if it has happened overnight, that needed to happen for them. So I think for me, that was a block at one point. But now I'm flourishing because I focus on me. How do I make my company better? You know, how do I make sure I'm getting the great talent to push us forward? So for me, that was the block. And I think once I understood, like, what's for me is for me, that's how I hone in on. So I think Amber said that if you have a negative mind, you are going to get negative results. I'm just really positive. Like, even if there's an issue, I'm always like, okay, so how do we get through this issue so it's not an issue? Like, let's get to the surface of what has happened so we can push forward, or it's going to continue to be an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Amber, unique?
Yeah.
Which
I'll
one?
go next. So I had a major blockage around money. I grew up with a family. My grandmother was the illegitimate child of her father, and her father had another family that lived very well, and she was very poor with her mother. And so she unconsciously, as we passed our traumas down, she passed this trauma down to her children. So there was always this lack of worthiness within my family. I don't come from a family of confident women. I don't come from a family of risk takers. I come from a family of women who work for the government, and they are gonna get their check every couple weeks, and they know that it's coming, and they're not taking risks because that's what feels safe for them. Yeah. And so here comes me, little Spitfire Amber, and you know, I remember like back to my grandmother, I started my third business. I had a company called Cane and Couture. It was a dog apparel company. And so
where you went some little place called Shark Tank or something with that company? Y'all made a little place.
But the mentality that it took to get to Shark Tank, to go into stores and to say, you don't carry dog apparel Macy's, but I want you to carry my brand, and I'm going to teach you about the pet apparel industry. That took so much work because the little girl in me, that little 6-year-old in me, like, you know, it was like, but I can't do this, but this is risky, but I could just go work a regular job. So the barrier, when we have that barrier that we need to overcome, I look at it as like a thorn. So say you're in the garden, you're gardening, you get a thorn. Now, when you get a thorn, if I were to put my arm out and you were to go to touch my thorn, I would snatch my arm away, right? And that's what we usually want to do. We want to protect our pains by pulling them away. Yeah. But instead of making everybody else work around my thorn, I'm trying to take the thorn out. And in order to do so, it's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be some pain, and it's going to take a lot of work. right? And so that work for me, when I find those barriers, when I find those thorns and overcoming them, is like, one, the self-compassion. Amber, it's okay. This is hard for you. Like, as someone who's a perfectionist, I used to just be like, push through it. But now I give myself the space. This doesn't feel good. It feels vulnerable. It's okay. And then I give myself the space to say, what do you need? Like, what is it that I need to overcome this? For my money issues, I needed to have thoughts that were different than the ones that I have. So how do you do that? Get around more positive people, right? Read a book. Whenever I have negative thoughts, I'm reading a book or looking for a podcast. I want to replace the negative thoughts that are in my mind, right? And if I can't do that on my own, I'm going to borrow somebody else's. So I read a ton of books on money, and I just continue to let myself know that I'm worthy and that I deserve it. And when we're in alignment with what it is that we desire, when I feel like I deserve what it is that I'm going for, then I allow it to flow into my life more. But it's something that I'm constantly working on. It doesn't just go away overnight.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And what about you, Alicia?
Yeah. What is a blockage that you have that you are overcoming? Put you on the spot.
And then we're going to go to Unique after. The biggest block for me, I've been transparent with y'all all day, so we might as well keep the party going. When I was growing up, I grew up in a very, very religious household. Unfortunately, my parents didn't quite know how to protect me, so I was abused a lot. I was fought by teachers, and I fought them back because, don't let the size fool you. So I fought a lot. I was jumped like I was kind of a hoe on the street when I was a teenager for something that I actually hadn't done in my school. And so for me, it made me feel as though I was worthless because the two people in my world who supposedly loved me the most didn't think I was good enough to protect me from those who thought that slapping me in front of an auditorium full of kids and adults was acceptable as a child. And so for me, there was just a lot of physical abuse. My mother was really violent with me because she did not understand why I was such a rebel and I would not comply. She said, go left, I went right, simply because she told me to go left. I was very defiant. And so for me, it made me feel super worthless. And so I chose men who treated me like I was worthless. So the biggest blockage for me was around love because I felt like I wasn't deserving because my parents didn't feel like I was deserving enough to protect, number one. And number two, that I could not have men to treat me well. That took years for me to work through. And even still sometimes I'll catch myself when I'm dealing with certain men and I'm like, hey, this action will only lead to this result. You have to change. You cannot stay with this person. You will have to shift. And so now I am ruthless and relentless in my shifting. And I date like I am ruthless and relentless in how I shift. Not in a mean way, but in a way ensuring that I am honoring the fact that not only am I deserving of love, but because I have so much to give, I need to only put myself in positions where folks are excited to give that back to me. So yeah.
All right, and Unique, your blockage or blockages and how you overcome them.
So, and I'm still working on my blockages. So a big blockage for me is being a nurturer. I want to be there and take care of everyone, whether I'm helping them get dressed, pick out an outfit, or I'm feeding them. I've homeschooled my son for 7 years now, and it's like I always want to be there for everybody. And I realized one day that I needed to start showing up more for myself. So I'm saying that because that I'm still working on it because today, but how I'm noticing it now. So for example, I was taking the food out the car today, and this guy walked up and was like, do you need help? And I was like, no, I got it. And so another friend of mine's reached out to me and was like, oh, I'm willing to help you with X, Y, and Z. And I was like, no, it's okay, I got it. And I'm working on it, but I want to be like, okay, here, yeah, take that, you know? And so when it happened today, after the guy walked away, I was like, I should have had him take out the bag, you know? Like, yeah, so I'm still working on my blockages, but I've noticed it. So for me, that's the first step because my son is going to school next year. After 7 years, I'm sending him to school. I no longer want to teach him. And I cook and I do all of those things, but on my time. If I don't feel like doing it, I'm not doing it. But so what's left is I need to be open to other people helping me.
Yeah, and thank God you felt like cooking today. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord on that.
Because the way Alicia called me, it was like, I got you, friend. You know, it's still in me. I'm a Cancer.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, I want to be there for everyone. I love everyone. That's why I picked that word, love.
We gonna support.
I know.
Bitch, you fall asleep on you. If you know me, you know I'm going to bed.
She did fall asleep on me last
I'm going to
night.
bed. Sure did. She was in the middle of talking, and I went right to sleep. I love you, though.
Thank you.
I'll
Love
share
you
my
too.
blockage.
I was just about to ask. I know you're not going to turn the mic on me.
Yeah, I know I couldn't. I was gonna try to get away with it, and I was like, she's not gonna let me. I grew up in church, and I'm not talking about like, oh, I went to church on Sundays. Like, I went to church on Tuesday night for prayer meeting. I went on Thursday for Bible study. I went on Friday for youth church, which I led and did the activities and came up with the games and sometimes preached. I mean, it was. Then on Saturday, we might have Saturday morning prayer breakfast. I don't know if y'all know what that is, but that's a thing. And then on Sunday, I made teach Sunday school, and then I sang on the praise team. And then on Sunday night, we had church again. I did that from I was about 5 years old to about 16, 17. That was my life. Okay. So one of the things, and I still believe deeply in a higher power in God, but one of the mechanisms that I feel like religion uses is fear. And that fear is oftentimes used to control people. So my family owned the church, so we're a part of the church family. So I mean, it permeates not outside of church. Even when I'm not in church, I'm in church. Okay, Sunday dinners the church people are there. The church people are at our Christmas dinners. Like, it was just like church was just life. So one of my biggest blockages is fear and anxiety. I'm always going to see what I should be afraid of before I start. So I have arachnophobia. And I can walk into, like, say we're like walking through like a forest or something. I can feel the spiders before I see them. Right? And I've had real anxiety attacks and panic attacks. Like, I have a heightened sense of fear of things because I grew up in this space where my mom is not going to say, look both ways before you cross the street, She's going to say, if you don't look both ways before you cross the street, you're going to get hit by a car and die. Right? Like, and I'm not exaggerating. Like, that is the mentality. It's like the worst case scenario all the time. I experienced the death of a loved one at around 16 years old, and that kind of shook up my world. But it definitely gave me a lot of anxiety around loss and fear. So one of the ways that I try to work through it is by continuing to remind myself that this is just a story I'm telling myself. And then, like Ashley says, like, you start asking yourself questions like, okay, where is the story coming from? Why am I thinking like this? Is there really something to be afraid of? Is it really going to be that bad? If I step outside, am I going to get struck by lightning? Probably not. So, just learning to have better conversations with yourself, and me learning and going to therapy and reading all the books and making small habit changes. But it's just catching myself in the moments where, like, even with this event where she started talking about it, the fear was like, oh my God, like, nobody's going to show up. Like, what the hell are we doing? Like, how are we going to pull this off? Like, my fears come. But I think one of the other important tools that I've used is surrounding myself with people who manage their fear well and who will push you or will demand you to show up better for yourself, right? All of my friends, my husband, I always make sure that I'm only surrounding myself with people who are not going to see the fear in me, but see the goddess in me and the strong person that's just going to push through and do it. So that's mine.
These have been so good, but we want to take it out to y'all. So we want to make sure you guys ask your questions before we enter into our closing session. I know you guys have had a great time because y'all told me. I didn't just make that up. But I want to make sure we give some folks some time to ask questions before we head out. So who would like to start?
Anything around blockages or anything that we've discussed?
I just wanted to say one thing. As we talked about blockage, we all talked about someone, right? Mm-hmm. Your mother, Amber, your grandmother. And I think we do that. We allow people to put their stuff on us. Yeah. And so one of the questions that you asked me in the beginning is, how do we have a successful, how have I been happy after 20 years? And I don't let my husband put his stuff on me. And I always tell him, like, if I'm going through something, he tries to match my energy. And I tell him, you can't match my energy. Stop. I don't need you to match my energy. I need you to be my husband. I need you to listen. I need you to hold me. And I think that is what we also need to do with the people in our lives, because triggers can come from anyone, but you also have to understand when you are being triggered. And so as we talked about, like, fear, it's because someone is putting something on us, or we're thinking about what has happened to that person. So it's good that we push through, but we really need to hone in on, it really is about us, and stop letting people put their stuff on you. Like, enough of it. Be okay, because at the end of the day, you got to protect you, your well-being, yourself. And so even when I'm going through something, I don't take that out. Like, if I'm having a really hard day with my kids, because you want somebody to trigger me, it's my husband and my kids. Like, because they're the ones that are in my house that's that love. That's that, so if I'm not doing something right, or I'm not feeling, it's because I want to make sure that I'm showing up for them. Yeah. But if I go out and I had a rough, you will never know, because I still show up as the person I am for you. Yeah. I don't need to put what I've gone through. Like, if we need to have a conversation about it because I need to vent, I'll do that with whoever I need to vent with, but I'm not putting my stuff on you. Yeah. I'm just not doing that.
Oh, listen, this has been so good the entire day. I'm super grateful. Where can we stay connected with each of you? Where can we support you? All the things. Whomever wants to start can start.
So my brand again is Eat and Cheat, and that's EINN Cheat. So you can go on to my website, eatandcheat.com, or you can follow me or find me on all social at Eat and Cheat. Just stay tuned, because I am launching my apple sugar on my birthday, July 8th, and I'll be giving out more information about it. And I just want to say this. Everybody is on this agave. Agave is not good. I know. When I started the journey, I was on the agave kick too, but I found out that agave spikes our blood sugar, and so it's not good for us. So I'm coming out with the apple sugar, which is low glycemic, and so Eat and Cheat.
And then she has some stuff back here too, if you guys want to purchase some of her seasonings. She has tea.
Back there, step away, because I'm getting it. The crab seasoning is the best. I want all of it.
Yeah, the everything bagel seasoning is fire. She has some CBD infused tea, and all her tea has sea moss. She has actual sea moss. So you can definitely purchase her products. They're high quality. They're amazing. So I just want to.
You know what? We should work together to create a Prosecco line.
Yes.
We should do.
With apple sugar.
Yeah. Let's do it.
And Amber, where can we stay connected with you?
Yes. So I am the Flow Coach on Instagram. I also encourage you, if you have children in school, I do social and emotional learning programs. That means having these conversations in schools and teaching not just the children, but the teachers, and doing parent workshops that are not just focused on their academic well-being, but their wholeness as a person and a child. So you can find me on Instagram or at quartzwellnesscollective.com.
Yes. And last call for questions. Nobody had a question for this one? Oh, there we go.
How y'all doing? Hi. My name is Georgia from Florida. I just moved here about a month ago, but I have a question about boundaries. Okay. Have you ever been on the other side of someone else's boundary, and what impact did that have on you?
Oh, that's a good one. Who wants to take that? It has to be y'all.
Okay, I'll take it. On the other side of someone else's boundary, so they set the boundary and I was on the other side of it. So yeah, I actually did have that happen, and I looked at it as a blessing. I find that because I'm a supporter, I'm the type of person that doesn't like to turn my back on people. I was abandoned by my father as a child, so I don't like to abandon relationships. So I found myself on the other side of someone's boundary in a friendship, and I welcomed it. I don't like to, I look at things of like, so I'm the flow coach. If it's flowing or if there's resistance. There was resistance in our friendship. I had outgrown that friendship. And I wasn't willing to abandon her and leave her behind. But as soon as I got an inkling of she was like trying to leave me behind, I was like, okay, peace. Thank you for that invitation to move on. And I still hold her in a space of love. She still is someone I can call on, and that I can her our children are very close. We're still there for each other, but our relationship looks different. It doesn't look like it did 20 years ago when we were in college and running around these streets. And I was okay with that. So
I
that's
have
just
a
one
little something to
example.
say about that too, because I have a lot of thoughts around boundaries. So if it's a healthy boundary, because sometimes people are saying it's a boundary when they're really just rejecting you and pushing you away and they're trying to protect themselves. So boundary is a real cute word, but I feel like sometimes it gets so abused. Yeah, when they don't want to deal with you. Like they don't want to deal. Maybe you called them out on something and now they put up. So if it's a healthy boundary, it should be a gate and not a wall. Right? It should be something that's flexible, that opens, where that boundary can shift and change based on what both of you need for the friendship. So a lot of times you have to stop. If you are on the other side, ask, is this a real boundary or are you avoiding something with me? Is there something within me that triggers something in you that you feel like now I need to go run and hide from you? So sometimes I feel like we get this sense that when we're on the other side of someone's boundary, that it's our fault or we did something wrong. It's not. You know, they have their own things that they're dealing with. I once had someone tell me on the other side of a very toxic, I guess, boundary that they're going to love me from a distance. And I was like, how you going to love me? You can't love me from a distance. You got to love me up close and personal. That's not love. But it did teach me that, no, you can love people from a distance. And sometimes that's exactly where the hell they need to be. Okay?
That on the when we were doing the live, and this was, I mean, I think we need to listen to our friends as well. So Georgia, I had a close friend who she's like a cousin to me, and I always used to say, like, call her swiper, no swiper, because we used to think she was sneaky. And this is terrible because I think we were in our 30s when I said that. I was like, hey, swiper, right? And she literally called me and said, I really don't like when you say that. And I heard her. Right? She wasn't just like, okay, I'm gonna let that slide. Because how many of us do that? Like, stop letting things slide. Like, just because we're friends. Like, no, a friend doesn't mean you get to insult me, talk about me, make me not feel good. A friend uplifts you, right? So I was like, I am so sorry. Guess what? Never said it again. And we love each other hard. But she set that boundary. Or I would have still been calling her swiper.
So the thing is that she set that boundary, but through communication, you all were able to still maintain your friendship. That's what I'm saying. That's a healthy, it's a gate.
Yeah.
It was an opportunity to let a deeper, because are you guys even closer now?
We've always been close, and I wasn't going to let that happen. And I think we got to stop looking at housewives and saying they're friends. They're not friends.
No.
Those are not
Frenemies.
friends. Those are not friends. They're
Yeah.
making money. It's a show. I would not, that's just not relationships. And here's the sad thing.
Not the standard.
That's not the relationship with women of color. That's not us.
Yeah, it's
we are
not.
loving. We show up to our houses. We go through things. You ain't even got, we don't second guess. You like, girl, we about to go kick some doors in. I'd be like, let's go. Well, in my 20s, I did that.
No, but you
right?
said that on the live.
You
said that.
You know, I did that in my 20s, okay? Let's be clear. But even with my husband, all my girls was there, like, they rallied behind me, like, oh, all right, so what we got to do? Like, and it was like, they were there for me. Yeah. So I think we just have to make sure we're listening to our friends. And I was happy she set that boundary. And don't be afraid if someone sets a boundary. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Listen, we're gonna have to do this on a real podcast, like just a virtual thing, so we can go as long as we need to. But today, we will have to close on down. Listen, I want us to end. Oh yes.
Just Nikkia McClain. So Nikkia McClain, MCCLAIN. I am the CEO and founder of Tanae Nicole Creative Agency, but I also have a network called Support Your Girlfriends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and both are amazing. So as we are about to, ladies, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, ladies.